Hi, this is Bob Weiss. I am the host of Shakin' Your World. Cheers.
Folks, welcome home. Yet another issue of Ghost Tales at the magnificent Shakers in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Today we are honored to have an old friend and an old staff member come back to chat with us about some of her experiences here, maybe dancing along the paranormal lines for a moment or two. Because of her incredibly high-profile job, we're not going to name her, and we merely had the opportunity to listen in and to hear these great stories. So I hope you enjoy. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome home.
Thank you.
So, you know why we're here.
I do. I have several stories that I can share that are outside the realm of what most of your audience has heard about in the past.
Please, tell me a story.
So over the course of the 10 plus years that I worked at Shakers, I encountered two spirits or abnormalities while I was here. One of them was a repeated activity that happened every time I opened the bar. The other one was a one-time opportunity. So with the person that I encountered repeatedly, anytime I was coming out of the women's bathroom after getting it set up to open up the bar, there would be a gentleman standing at the back bar with his leg up, much like you have your leg right now, elbow up on the bar, much like you have your elbow up now, but dressed in what was clearly 1920s attire. Pants with a cuff at the bottom, suspenders, white shirt rolled up to the elbows rather, and then a hat.
Styling guy.
Styling guy. And then as I would walk by him, he would disappear like any apparition, but he was there consistently anytime I was opening between the hours of 2 and 4 p.m.
That's neat. So about how tall? How big?
Well, I would say he probably was around 6 foot tall.
Okay.
Now, granted, I'm short, so most people look tall to me, but I would have said 6 foot.
You're just the right size.
And no facial expression or anything that I could see. He always had his head tilted to one side and just stayed in that pose until he disappeared. It was almost like he was there to make sure that I was okay.
That's nice.
It is. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Let me ask first, did you ever have an idea what his name might be or anything about him? Ever get a sense for occupation, anything at all?
I did not. What I can tell you is that he was not threatening to me.
Okay.
He felt like he was happy to be there.
Okay.
He was warm and welcoming. There was nothing frightening about him whatsoever.
Okay. Excellent. And then would he disappear as you walked past, or as other people came in, or he was already gone?
Typically he was gone. It would be a glance at him, glance at the mirror, he was gone.
Did you see him in the mirror as well, or just saw him at the back bar?
I just saw him at the back bar.
That is remarkable. Okay. What's number two?
Number two was actually an evening when I was closing, and frequently, being a young woman by myself in what was then a transitional neighborhood to some degree, I would have a guest stay with me to make sure that I would be fine when I took the garbage out and whatever else. So this particular guest happened to be a then employee of the Milwaukee Fire Department.
Okay.
And was finishing up a cocktail as I was standing back by the cash register, cashing out the evening's sales and receipts.
At the front bar, not the back bar?
At the front bar, correct. So we heard a loud bang, and all of a sudden looked up, and the entire foyer area was in flames. There was smoke protruding from it, flames up to the ceiling. It was frightening enough, Bob, that I actually called you at home, and it was probably about 2:45, 3 o'clock in the morning. Called you, hung
Hysterical,
up.
I might say.
Yes, hysterical. Called you, hung up the telephone, turned back around, and there was no more fire, no more smoke. The gentleman guest and I went over and checked out the entire area. There was no sign of there ever having been a fire in that location. And those are the two stories that were probably the most remarkable during the time that I was here.
Well, those are certainly remarkably big stories. So let me ask you, do you think that the smoke and the fire was kind of dependent upon the firefighter who was here as well? That it's something that he brought with him?
Well, it definitely was ironic that
Okay.
there was a firefighter here at the time, and that irony wasn't lost on me. So perhaps, whatever apparition it was digging into that, and that's why they materialized that way.
Nice. Did you ever have the opportunity to speak with him again after that point and regale that moment?
We did. In
Okay.
fact, we shared it with other guests at the bar over time.
Okay.
Not in great quantities because it sounds pretty dramatic and possibly unbelievable.
No.
So for credibility purposes, I would say we shared it with a smaller audience that understood some of the abnormalities that occur here.
Sure. Okay. Now, those are your own personal experiences. In the decade that you were here, I'm sure you heard of other stories here as well.
I did.
Any of those resonate with you at all?
Well, I'm aware of Elizabeth, who many people said that they saw in the women's restroom. I can't say that I ever encountered Elizabeth.
Okay.
However, the women's restroom has never felt like a place of rest for me.
Okay.
I also believe, in talking with one of your daughters, that we had an abnormality when she was here one time, but down by the washer and dryer area.
Okay.
I will share, and this is slightly embarrassing, but I, with frequency, would say prayers or sing to myself when I was coming up from the basement and was here alone closing, because it is rather disconcerting down there.
It's a very pleasant way to put that. And you are not alone in that, by the way, both in the thoughts and the things that you did. Which of my daughters, by the way?
That would have been Katie.
Katie. Yeah, when Katie and John were little, they would come here, and we'd be here before open, closing up the night before or something else, and they'd be in the restroom. And, you know, time to go. What are you guys doing? Playing with the little girl back there. And they had not heard the stories or anything else, the frame of reference. And even when Clay Frank would bring his daughters here, they're probably 5 and 6 at the time in the same kind of situation. So there's definitely something back there. And that something does have an association, especially with little kids. And it's neat. And we certainly enjoy the participation with Elizabeth on a regular basis. Now, I got to think, though, that I recall you having a story about the lights as well at one point. I think might have been different fixtures.
You are slightly ringing a bell there, but I can't tell you that that one has stayed with me.
Okay.
If I shared a story with you, then it was definitely true.
Okay.
But I don't recall it right now, I'm sorry.
Okay. So people have for years talked about other things downstairs, whether it's O'Connor or something like that, the Confederate soldier. That was, I think, pretty much after your time that we finally identified him. Anything upstairs, all the time that, of course, back then it was a much different upstairs too.
Back then it was very different upstairs. It was primarily your office. That is another place that I was not fond of working on my own. And I will say, I mean, at the time, I lived alone and did many things alone, so it was specific to the space that I was not always comfortable there.
Right.
Not just the normal creaks and sounds that you hear in an old building, but other things that would make you feel unsettled.
Cool. So of all the other stories that you've heard here, and I'm sure at some point you just kind of blocked them out anyway because you enjoy your time here, is there anything that has piqued your interest that you wanted to go back and look further into?
You know, I guess I would like to understand a little bit more about what exactly you have going on in the second and third floors, because my experience there was clearly very different when it was an office and an apartment. So I think that's uncharted territory for me personally. I'll have to do a ghost tour.
Please do. So were you here when Robert Raymond was running for Senate at that point, and he lived upstairs? And
I was.
And he had all sorts of his own stories of things taking place?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you have many credible sources over the years.
We do. Yeah. All right. So you would have no compunction whatsoever to spending the night upstairs by yourself?
No, I think I would skip that. Thank you, though.
Oh, okay. And how about compunction about walking downstairs by yourself right now?
I think I'll pass on that one, too.
Okay. Well, that's just something all by itself, doesn't it?
Indeed.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Anything you want to talk about?
I just think that this is the best place in Milwaukee, and I have had always phenomenal experiences here. So whatever inhabits this place has good spirits and intentions in many cases, and perhaps those that do not are trying to send a message that other people need to hear.
Perhaps. Well put. Thank you very much for coming in today. I know how incredibly busy you are, and I value tremendously your input on this. And again, somebody who's here for easily 10 years, you've seen an awful lot here.
I have.
Thank you
for
very
having
much.
me.
Thank you. Folks, to those of you at home who've taken the time to listen to us, I really appreciate your time as well. If you have any questions, please send that email. You can hit me up at shakersmilwaukee@gmail.com. Be good to yourselves and the people you love. Cheers. Thanks.